Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to QGTV. Ramadan 2011, day 20. Today we'll be doing chapters 38 Sod and chapters 39 Az-Zumar. So far we have, since we moved on from Al-Ahzab, I think which was about 3 days ago, Al-Ahzab was the last hard chapter which we came across. After that, it seemed to be a series of discursive chapters, and we're still there actually. We're still on that discursive vibe where the Quran talks to the reader and advises him through his personal human experience. Let's begin with chapter 38, Sod. It starts with Sod wal Quran the dhikr. So it's almost like Yasin wal Quran al Hakim. Here is wal Quran the dhikr. So dhikr is that which makes eminent that which is eminent, and al Quran possesses that which makes eminent. Then it continues and says, Bal alladhina kafaru, those who reject, they're rejecting this aspect of the Quran. Fi izzati wa shiqaq, they are steeped in self-glory and separatism. So here we can see the beginning theme of this chapter. It is dealing with the Quran's role as that which brings humankind eminence. Here eminence is not something to be confused with pride. It's to do with actualization of the self. So an interesting aspect of those who reject their discourse, they say that has he made the gods into ilahan wahida, one God. So truly this is an amazing thing. So here we can see that the worship of Allah is linked with the actualization of the human being. However, those who reject, because they are in izzah or self-glorification and shiqaq, separatism, they reject this. Next it mentions the people who rejected the apostles or the messengers before, the people of Nuh, the people of Ad, Fir'aun, who is called here the Lord of the Stakes, then Thamud, the people of Lut, and the Ashabul Aikah, the companions of the wood, so called. Yeah? Ulaika al-Ahzab, they are of the parties. So these people, they had the same problem. So a new analysis is being put forward in this chapter now. It is indeed talking about the same people, but various angles are being highlighted here. Then it talks about Dawood. Dawood is called the man of strength who kept on returning to Allah. So here we can see that if you keep referring or returning back to Allah, you will be given aid, or various capacities or strength. The mountains are said to be in unison, acting harmoniously with him. And at-tayr, who are the human beings who have a certain power of or capacity, they are with him as well, and they were all tending towards Allah. And Allah says, وَشَدَّدْنَا مُلْكَهُ, we strengthen his mulk, his dominion. وَآتَيْنَهُ الْحِكْمَةِ وَفَصْلَ الْخِطَابِ, and gave him a discerning discourse. So here Dawood is shown to be exemplifying that dhikr which we mentioned in verse 1 of this chapter. So Dawood has already achieved this. And what is his role? Well, here we can see it. It's from verse 17 to verse 20. Then it continues with Dawood. In verse 21, it talks about the disputants and Dawood. And Dawood gave them a proper judgment based on his reason. So here we can see that's the role of the one who possesses the dhikr. He will give proper judgment to the people. And very interestingly here, The Quran is mentioned again in verse 29. It says, Kitabun, a book, Anzalnahu ilayka, we descended it to you, Mubarakun. It is containing barakah. Barakah is something which enables growth. لِيُدَبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ, that they may contemplate its signs. وَلِيَتَذَكَّرَ أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ, and those who are the people of the core, they may vivify it. So why is this again mentioned here? Well, here it shows that following the principles of the book will lead to the same situation as the kingdom of Dawood. And then verse 30 talks about Sulaiman. Sulaiman's love of the good for the sake of Allah. An dhikri Rabbi. Yeah, an dhikri Rabbi. So that's verse 32. Sulaiman loves the al-khair, the thing which brings choice and good. But an dhikri Rabbi, for the remembrance of his Lord. So there you go again. Again, it talks about the people in that state which the Quran brings them. The Quran is said to be wal Quran the dhikra, and here Dawood and Sulaiman are exemplifying that dhikr. However, these are the positive aspects, yeah? And it continues with Sulaiman all the way to verse 40. However, we come to the downside now, which is Ayub. Ayub was in a state where he was afflicted by shaitan. So we've seen previously in chapters 34 and 35, shaitan afflicted those who have possessed those blessings of Allah, and he brought them down. So here Ayub is in that same situation. Well, Allah tells him to urkudh birijlik, strike with your mobility. Hada muhtasal baridun wa sharab. Here is cooling wash for you and a drink. So this is a very metaphorical passage here, perhaps telling us of our own inner capacities to heal ourselves. And God gave him his people, and they were doubled. Here it shows that patience, indeed, the saying goes, you should have the patience of Job. Well, this is Ayub, and he is from that same personality, that biblical Job. So here we can see the example of his patience. From verse 45 onwards, we have other personalities mentioned, and they are called Ibadana, or our servants, God's servants. Ibrahim, wa Ishaq, wa Yaqub, Ulil Aid, they are called, possessors of capacities, wal absar, and vision. And Allah chose them for a special purpose. That's verse 46. Inna akhlasnahum bi khalisatin dhikra. So dhikra, again, dhikra is being mentioned here. If you go back to the first verse, it talks about Al-Quran with dhikra. So your reading must possess that dhikr, that capacity for vivification. And these people are also exemplifying that example. Verse 48, it talks about Ismail wa Alias. Wal Aliyasa, which is different personality than Alias we saw in the previous chapter. Wa Dhul Kifl. And these people are called Al-Akhyar, the people who bring about khair, or a state of choice for the people. So this chapter ends with verse 71, which talks about Allah saying to the angels that He would create human beings from clay, and the angels prostrated themselves. This is obviously the story of Adam, but Adam is not mentioned here. Rather, the personality put forward here is Iblis. Of all people, Iblis is put forward here. Why? Iblis' personality is that he was frustrated, he was wrapped up in grief. He is a negative personality. Contrast this with dhikr above. Wal Quran the dhikr. That is something positive. It actualizes, it vivifies. Here Iblis is mentioned. And Allah actually addresses, Ya Iblis, what prevents you from making sajda or prostrating yourself to the one I have created with my hands. See? So here you can see the personality of Iblis being mentioned as well. So that the chapter ends with the mention of dhikr. It says, in huwa illa dhikrun lil alamin. That is verse 87. وَلَتَعْلَمُ نَبَأَهُ بَعْدَ حِينٍ. And you will know its news. The dhikr, it has news of the unseen after a while. So if you bring forward the dhikr, you vivify it, you will know its truth after a while. So that's chapter 38. So chapter 38 seems to be about actualization, dhikr, possessing powers and capacities, and this is for all of us. And these personalities in the Quran are to be emulated for this purpose as well. So next we move on to chapter 39, Az-Zumar.